Welcome to the Winning Edge podcast, where we share focus, fueling, and faith-filled stories and strategies to give young athletes the tools they need to become the best version of themselves as athletes and individuals.
What you eat and how you think can transform your athletic performance and overall well-being. Whether you're an athlete, coach, or fitness enthusiast looking to gain that mental edge and optimize your health, this podcast is for you. We are your hosts. I'm Lindsay, former collegiate athlete, coach, educator, and educational coach for over 20 years, and a mom of two young athletes.
And I'm Stacy, registered dietitian nutritionist of over 18 years and a mom of two young athletes.
Today, I'm really excited because we're going to be talking with David Raffield. David Raffield is a prominent high school football coach based here in Cypress, Texas, most notably known for his successful tenure as the head football coach at Bridgeland High School. Raffield began his coaching career in the Houston area, serving as head track coach and assistant football coach at Cy Falls High School for 11 years before being named the head football coach. He led the Golden Eagles as head coach from 2003 to 2010, guiding them to a state title appearance and multiple playoff seasons. After Cy Falls, Raffield went to coach at A&M Consolidated High School and later was chosen to open and lead the football program at Bridgeland High School in Cypress, Texas. Under his leadership, Bridgeland quickly became a powerhouse program and achieved significant playoff success. Raffield is recognized throughout Texas for his commitment to athlete development, leadership, and building high-achieving football programs. He officially retired from coaching in January of 2023, leaving a legacy in Texas high school football.
David, thank you for being on with us. You have a great story of coaching in Texas. And football is like the thing in Texas.
It's awesome. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I was telling Lindsay a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, just to kind of tee it up for our listeners, is you and I happen to be having a conversation. And I asked you, David, how have you been so successful? Like, what has made your success? And you said what to me?
I talked about building a culture and building that culture into the weight room.
Yeah. And
I want to know so much more about that. Yeah, because it's not the first place that I think people would assume you build a culture and community with a team and build that the family dynamic. But I think we need to know more about this weight room.
So I felt like this was a solid strategy, David. Tell us about the weight room and why it's so important.
Really, when you're talking about building culture in your program, the number one thing you need is consistency. And the weight room is the first place you can go to look for consistency. It teaches you how to work hard. It teaches you how to work with others. It teaches you how to have success. But more importantly, it teaches you how to fail and overcome that failure. The weight room is amazing because a lot of people just look at it from the outside in and say, how much weight can you lift? And it's really not about that. When you're in that weight room, we want high energy, high excitement. We want coaches coaching every rep. We want kids getting excited, not for themselves, but for teammates. It brings everybody together. It brings a very common goal. One of the coolest things is it doesn't matter whether you're the guy in the back row who barely benches 135 pounds, or you're the guy in the front row who's trying to bench 400. Everybody gets excited for those kids when you're going for a PR, and it builds a lot of camaraderie that way.
I love you're speaking to my heart right here. I remember being a freshman in college in the weight room for the first time with my team, and I was the only freshman. And I remember feeling like I don't belong here. And my team in that weight room made me feel like I shouldn't have been anywhere else in the world, that I fit right there with them. And so I love that you just said that, because it really is. It's a place to support one another and boost each other.
And speaking to that, one of the things that's so important is trying to get kids and anybody to coach one another, to hold each other. We talk about holding accountable, but it's more than holding accountable. It's really about helping someone become successful. And so in the weight room, when you're the new guy, it's the older guy's responsibility to bring them up. It's not to tear them down, it's to teach them the techniques. And we are so technique driven at Bridgeland High School when I was there. Everything was about doing it properly. And if you don't do it properly, we didn't count it. And so kids learn to coach one another. And when kids are coaching one another, it's easy to hold them accountable. It's easy to buy in
Hmm.
because that's not Johnny who's the big bad football superstar. That's Johnny who helped me get my PR, you
Yeah.
know? Uh, the excitement it creates, and won't throw too many in, but I remember when Connor Wigman was a freshman and he was one of the ones in the back row and somebody up front hit a PR and he ran to the front, said, add 5 pounds, and jumped up and did it. And the whole place goes crazy. I look around going, okay, we have a leader. And someone goes, it was 5 pounds. I go, no. The courage it took a freshman to go get underneath that dude's special.
Yeah.
And so it builds that whole program. And again, when kids are holding each other accountable and cheering each other in a positive way, wow, that just translates onto the football field.
Yeah, I love that too because on one of our other podcasts, we had talked to one of my former teammates that I played basketball with, and she's a high school coach, and she was talking about recruiters coming in, looking at kids as athletes, and not only your game, where are you at as a player, but how are you as a teammate, and
Oh,
how do you support your teammates? That's something that colleges and recruiters are looking at. Yeah,
Oh,
so.
I've had conversations with kids multiple times after talking to recruiters going, we're not going to offer him. And I go, why? I go, have you seen him
Mhm.
in the back of drills? Have you seen him like going out to practice and dragging? I mean, I've had them point blank tell me that. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's stuff you don't notice as a coach.
Yeah.
You're so busy and you're caught up in the forest that you don't see the trees. And
Yep.
that's where those outside people come in and go, hey, do you spot that? So that was kind of my job in a weight room. I had coaches coaching, and I was looking for those individual trees that needed help.
So as a coach that has created this, like you have built this culture, you left Bridgeland High School with that culture in place. How would you recommend coaches build that same culture like you did? We always say there's not a rule book for everything. There's not a step by step book, but you definitely have the skills and the advice for that, I'm
Well, and
sure.
I want to call out something here because you said something to me, David, when I asked you, how do
Mhm.
you build a program like that? You said it starts with what I ask the coaches to do in the weight room. I think that will answer Lindsay's question. Can you
Okay.
talk about what do you require the coaches to do? Because what do coaches often do, you told me, in the weight room?
Well, a lot of coaches will stand around and just watch. Maybe the workout's posted or they announce it, and they just walk around and don't stay, or worst case, lean against the wall, something of that nature. I
Mhm.
had a rule that every time a kid was going, I wanted the coach to either give a positive affirmation. Well, the positive was first, offer a correction or a little motivation. So I expected my coaches to be extremely noisy in the weight room. Like if you're in there, it should be the hardest thing you do all day is coaching those kids because you're going to have lots of kids going. In our case, we're rotating 300 kids through the weight room.
Yeah.
At any given time, there's 75 kids in there. Not easy with 4 or 5, 6 coaches. And so they ought to be tired at the end of the workout. But that makes them a better coach because they're looking for details, they're motivating, they're correcting. Um, and it kind of sets a tempo, not only in that weight room, but then everywhere else.
Oh, I 100% agree because I think that, we want feedback, right? Like
Yeah.
adults, we want feedback. We want that as kids. As athletes, we crave that, right? You're not only looking to please your coach and to do the right thing, but you want the criticism and the motivation to make you better. So I love that.
Well, and it was so interesting to me, David, because when I heard you say this, it said something to me that is, you said about the recruiter and the young athlete who maybe was slacking when they were in the back of the line. And it was interesting to hear you say, like, I couldn't afford to let my coaches slack in the weight
Mhm.
room because they were building the culture of what our full team culture was. And so I think it's interesting you asked the question, Lindsay, that's almost like as a coach, it doesn't matter if you're in the weight room or
Yeah.
on the field, like, you need to be coaching. You need to
Yeah.
be giving affirmation. You need to be giving correction. You need to be high energy,
Yeah.
really engaged. And it was interesting, David, because you said you brought them in at one point and you had everybody review film. Talk about that and then talk about how that translated to the field.
Early on at Bridgeland, it was a brand new staff. And so, uh, trying to get everybody to do it my way, the way I believe in the program, I actually videoed the coaches in the weight room. And then we
Oh.
had a staff meeting to show as to who was actually, what were they doing, you know? And
Yeah.
it's real simple, like, what are you doing right there? You know? And it
Besides holding
wasn't
up the
the,
wall.
yeah, now it takes a great relationship to do something like that because
Yeah.
you could easily have someone get pretty upset when
Yeah.
you call them out. But that was the one thing. It's never personal. It's
Mhm.
just about trying to become better. And when you have that growth mentality, that not only carries with your coaches, but it carries with your kids.
Yeah.
And so the same thing, the first and the second string quarterback, you want a growth from mentality where that first guy is pushing that second guy.
Yep.
And that second guy is again responding, trying to push the starter.
Because you have to have self-reflection, and the
Yes.
self-reflection has to come from the top down if you
Yes.
really wanna build something incredible, and so I love that you were like, "Hey, look at this film, what are you doing here? What are we asking our kids to do? How do we model that? How do we make sure that's happening across the board?" I love that.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. In the weight room the size that we have, just like the practice field, I call it, it's real easy for kids to hide.
Mhm.
And when a kid hides, it's not good. It's not good for the program. It's not good for the kid. And so the only way to protect it is that coaches have to constantly be aware. And had the same thing. We had the video coaches on the sidelines to see what they were doing. And it really wasn't so much what the coaches were doing. If they're coaching, they're facing the field.
Right.
They may not know what's going on behind them. And I had an eye-opening experience with that. When I was at Consol, seventh grade B team football, you ought to see what goes on the bench.
Oh, sir. Those are
And,
my
and
people.
it's not necessarily the coach's fault because there was
No.
only two of them, and there
No.
was 60 of those rascals playing for water.
All
And I was
kinds of
I was
nonsense.
mortified. I
Ugh.
was mortified. And I
Nobody
was
yeah, they're a bunch of squirrels in middle school.
Needless to say,
yes.
they ran a bunch after
Yeah.
that.
So there's a lot of ways you have to go to teach that. But I'll go back. If you really want, you get to spend more time. If you do the weight room program correctly, you're in there year round. You're
Yeah.
not on the practice field year round. You're not in the season year round. So it is, I go back. I'm a creature of habit. I'm a behavioralist. I believe it's what you repeatedly do. And so, where can we have the biggest bang for our buck? It's the weight room.
You know, I've always been a believer that the best athletes are built in the off season. I've always been a believer of that. It's the work you're putting in when it's not in season that's going to make the difference on the program. But the idea that, you have so many football players. And I think that's something that's so different in football. And I didn't get that till I didn't know we had a football team in high school. I
Basketball was the only
no,
thing.
I'm not from a place that's like big football. And when I moved here and I was in East Texas, it was football is life. Friday nights was like a rock concert. You know what I mean? And there was nothing better. And I fell in love with it. But the sheer number of athletes that y'all have, when you say you are building a community, you're building that culture and that family, how do you do that with so many kids? What advice would you give to coaches as to how to get to know and establish relationships with that many athletes? Because you're right, when you don't have your eyes on them, what are they doing behind you? But in high school, it's like what's happening outside off the field with them that you also need to be aware of.
the, the most important thing, and everybody will tell you uh, about me, was I was the person that greeted them every day.
Hmm.
If they were coming in the weight room, I was by the door and I'm high fiving, you know, being silly, singing Christmas songs during July. I mean, I do whatever it can. you can read people's faces as they're coming through and shuttling in, and you're looking for triggers.
Yeah.
You're looking for some kid that just failed a math test. You're looking for a kid that had a bad night. You're looking for a kid that is just wore out, and you have to do something, respond to them. It can be a joke, it can be a high five, it can be, "Hey, can you come here real quick? Are you
Mhm.
okay?" You kinda look, and at the same time, they gotta leave me every day.
Yeah.
And I tried my best. The coaches are fighting getting to and from, but it was a major point of emphasis of trying to see them go in the locker rooms, going wherever. When they're going out in the field, going out with them, not sitting and waiting, but be amongst them, asking them questions. And that's a big thing. It's a little thing. Hey, man, who you got for math? What's going on? And,
Yeah.
hey, have you finished your English project? I heard sophomore English is writing a paper or whatever. And it's those little common daily conversations that build the relationship. And then in the weight room, the celebrating the successes,
Yeah.
and again, it's crazy. I've been there celebrating a kid who benched 100 pounds, and I've been there with kids who squatted 575 pounds,
Good.
opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But you know what? In their world, that kid who hit 100 for the first time, that was a big deal.
A win's a win. Mm,
That's it.
I love that. I really respect how you made the effort because not all coaches do that, right? That you made
Correct.
the effort to be at that door, to greet every kid, to check in. I mean, I'm an educator, right? And so that's always been my biggest thing is you can't have a full functioning, successful classroom if you don't have that relationship with all your students and build that culture and climate. So I think that's something that not everybody recognizes as the most crucial piece. And I think that's the biggest attribute to your success by has to be that right there.
The greatest compliment I ever had, and I've had it 3 times. So we had it going at Cy Falls. That was my first time as the head coach. My original staff and my buddies, we all get in there and go, and we have a ton of success. And after we had it, we started asking ourselves, "Can you take culture with you? Is
Mhm.
it just because we're at Cy Falls High School that it's all of us?" So when I left and went to A&M Consolidated, I went by myself. I left the entire staff behind and I started over again. Had a couple buddies join me, but nobody off the Cy Falls staff. And then I built a whole new staff at Bridgeland, only bringing a couple with me. And the best compliment was we went to the regional finals at all 3 schools.
Yeah.
All 3 of those schools, any of those kids could have walked in the locker room and played for any of those teams. They were the same. And my I did a clinic a few years ago, and I was like, "You can take culture wherever you want to." And, that was through the driving points. It's because I do the same thing at all 3 schools
Yep.
that I was the head coach. You know, you talk about summer camps where our attendance rate was 94%. So we're running, an insane number of kids. But
Yeah.
if you were a football player, you had to check in with me every single day. And then if you missed a day, a coach contacted you. And the next day I knew you missed. So when you came up, you go, "Hey, everything okay? We missed you
Yeah.
yesterday." And it's amazing what that little thing did to encourage uh, a relationship with kids
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and
it looks like
accountability.
accountability for you, but it looks like care for them a little
Yeah.
bit too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Kids will do anything you need them to do and ask them to do if they know that you believe in them and you have built a relationship with them.
Yep.
And some people struggle with that piece
Mm.
of the coaching. They lack the relationship component. And so I'm so glad you're speaking to us today so that our other coaches out there can hear that and man, I hope they take that away,
Yeah.
right?
If anything comes first, it comes your heart for coaching.
Yeah.
And I think I always tell Lindsay she's so great at this. I see her coaching heart, and I think you are too, David. I see that. That's why I was so excited to have you on and kick off with you. Is I think a huge part of your success has been your heart for investing in those individual players, but then also teaching that to your staff. So, like, I think about this as a head coach for your assistant coaches. talk about that for any of our head coaches who are trying to build a culture on a
Mhm.
team and like just that accountability that you had to set. So you mentioned it when you went to console, those weren't all your people. You started at Falls and it was all your
Yeah.
buddies. You went to console and it wasn't your buddies. You moved to Bridgeland and it was nobody that you knew. How do you hire for and how do you build that culture in an assistant coach or in your team when
Yeah.
you're developing a program?
One, probably most important is the hiring. And I always had what I called a very eclectic staff. I never wanted a whole bunch of people that were the same. I
Mhm.
wanted different kinds of coaches, different personalities, because kids are different. And a great coach may be able to coach everybody, but let's be honest, not everybody's a great coach. The
Mhm.
average coach, you have to have a way to make that guy successful. So, how do you make that average person successful? It's by building a relationship with them. And hopefully, if I'm living the characteristics and demanding what my philosophy is, my program is, and those habits are the same, I think they take on your personality.
Mm.
I had a coach, and I gotta be real broad here. He was a rip it and grip it weight room guy, okay? And he and I have worked each other multiple times at different places, and he was always just tough it out, get mean, et cetera, et cetera. And I had grown into a technique person that way in the weight room. And the 2 of us started working together, and I brought in a strength coach to help educate us
Mm.
and to keep growing. Well, probably 6 or 7 years later, we're at Bridgeland, and I got a kind of a new staff, but he was with me, and it might be, golly, I've never seen anybody so technical in the weight room. And inside, I couldn't say a word. Inside, it swelled my heart because I knew over a 6-year period of time, I had influenced somebody and they had become even better than
Yeah.
what they were before. And so it is having a organized program at your standards, all of that. But it's also, I live my accountability.
Mhm.
And, the hardest thing I've done since I retired is I was a football coach. That's what I
Yeah.
did for 36 years, and I invested in kids and people. It's kinda hard now that on a day-to-day basis, I can't invest.
Yeah.
I invest in the daylights out of my grandkids, you know,
Mhm.
but,
But
you
you are
know
doing that, David. You are here with us and you're investing in the future of coaches who are going to invest in those kids. So I think your wisdom pays dividends and the things that you've experienced and learned that you're passing on to other
Yeah.
coaches so that they can make powerful change. And also, I just have to say, I love that y'all said you don't count it if it's not done right.
Mhm.
Because as someone who grew up weightlifting in the weight room, and as someone who made my husband thought I was crazy, but both of our boys do formal training on how to properly lift.
Uh-huh.
Yep,
So many injuries happen in the weight room, and they happen with kids pushing to get bigger, faster, stronger who don't understand the form of what it takes. So I love it. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we're making
And
everybody.
that's the biggest thing. I never wanted injuries in the weight room. They're gonna
Mhm.
happen,
Yeah.
but that is something that you just don't want. And there's so many other ways. But so you go into when I go back in the weight room thing is you're talking technique. You're talking as coaches, I'm constantly encouraging that growth mentality. So I
Mhm.
hire them, I explain what I want, I set standards, but then, I'll tell them all the time. I don't want to be the best offensive line coach on the staff. I want you to be the best offensive line coach. How can I help you get there? Where can I send you? What can I do? I'm here as a head coach to encourage you to grow. And I go, my passion was quarterback play. And the hardest thing I ever had to do was not coach an individual
Mhm.
because I'm not going to step on my quarterback coach. I have to coach him up to go coach the quarterbacks.
But
And
see,
I learned a lot.
what you're saying here just shows how much of a leader you are because you built leaders in your coaching staff. And a lot of times people think that
Right.
they have to do it all themselves, but great leaders grow and develop more leaders. And you did that, and that's why you're so successful. And then your other coaches that were leading, y'all all created athletes who became leaders as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I currently have 13 former assistants that are head coaches in the state of
Wow.
Texas or outside of state, and over 40 former athletes now that have gone into coaching. I just had some new ones this
That's
year.
amazing.
And when I look at it, that was where I felt like I made my difference.
That alone is evidence that you did a
You
pretty
know,
great job.
I think that some people outside of sports forget or don't realize that coaches make such an impact
Mm.
on kids off of the field and out of the gym where they
oh,
are successful adults and they're productive and their work ethic is so far above and beyond people that may not have had that experience with that coach because it's just ingrained in you. It becomes just you're going to do it and do it right. You you go
well,
all in.
so we were working like dogs at Cy Falls. I'd worked, oh, it was like 800 and some consecutive days, including Christmas.
Mm,
And we had lost in the regional finals. And we had a lot of kids coming back. And anything short of a state championship was going to be a failure. And we went into off season like, we can't live like this. Like,
mhm,
that's not what it's about.
mhm,
And we came up with a motto uh, that we were trying to build champions. And if we build enough champions, we'd win championships.
mhm,
And then over the years, when I went to A&M Consolidated, we codified it and said building champions every day in every way. And then by the time we got to Bridgeland, it was building champions for life
yeah,
every day in every way. And it all goes back to the exact same habits that we expect in the weight room and on the practice field is
mhm,
the expectation in the classroom, is the expectation on your job outside, in your family, etc. And when you take that mindset on work hard, try to grow, try and find better ways to do things,
mhm,
you know, but encourage and support your teammates or your coworkers or your classmates or your family members, then you are a champion in whatever you choose to do. It doesn't matter. And I think those habits that we put out, you know, thank goodness for Facebook, so I still stay in contact with some and hear these good stories. But most of the time, as an educator, you don't ever know if you really made a difference or not.
mhm.
And when you find a happy story, it swells your whole heart.
Yeah.
It is. It's the
Why you
most
do it in the first.
rewarding
Yeah.
thing in the world is working with kids. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So I do wanna know what is, like, your favorite it's not about the weight room right now. What is one of your favorite experiences or moments as a coach for all those years?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I don't
I'm
know.
asking you to pick your favorite song and not giving you a genre.
Yeah. You can't pick a single moment of of any of my football games because there's been so
Yes.
many that were so spectacular. But I'll tell you, I tell people I'm an educator at heart, and I always preached you had to be in the classroom doing all that. Even though coaches want to be on the field, you
Mhm.
got to be in there. But I'll be honest, I think the moments that will stay with me the most was early in my career. I'll try not to be choked up. I was a very cocky 23-year-old, thought I had invented football and coaching, and I was coaching my first job was at a middle school, and I was the eighth grade B team coach. So, so someone who thinks he invented football and how to coach, okay. And I had a player that year that I was working with. He was an eighth grader, and he was struggling in school a lot, but he was struggling because of what was happening at home.
Mhm.
And at the end of the year, they had a giant meeting, principals, counselors, teachers, and they were going to hold him back and not let him go to ninth grade. And it was mostly about English.
Mhm.
And I listened to all these people, and I sat there and I said, "Can I say something? Do you know why he doesn't do his homework?" And I'm sorry.
No,
To
you're gonna
this
make
I
me
feel
day,
cry,
this.
David.
All right, this is. And I stood up in that room and all these experienced educators. And I said, do you know what he does every night? Every night, he plays with his little brother who's dying of cancer.
Mhm.
Uh,
And he doesn't do his schoolwork because he's building every moment he has with his sibling.
Mhm.
4 years later, I'm in a different school district, and we're playing a game in pregame, and this big kid comes up and grabs
Mhm.
me, and it was him. He had made it through his senior year playing for an opposing team, and we're in the middle of the field talking about him and his family. And when it's all said and done, all the people I've coached, I've had people in the NFL.
Mhm.
I got guy who finished number 2 at West Point academically. I mean, I got dudes, right? That was the most influential thing I did my entire career, and I never, ever have forgotten that and what really matters, and it's the people.
Yeah. And
Oh god.
I
you
I
made
haven't
me
told that
cry,
story in a
David.
while.
I
It's
so
hard.
you're sharing that because I think that coaching is so much deeper than just coaching a sport. And having been in education for so long, um, there's so much that goes on with kids that nobody has a clue about. Um, and that's why it's so important to build your relationships with your players, your students. You have to, because there's so much that goes on in these kids' lives, and the impact that we make on them, the difference that we can make in their lives is so much bigger than the sport. And so I'm really glad you shared that, because a lot of coaches that are young are going to face that in this season or in the next season. And
Oh, yeah.
it really shakes you to your core when you have those moments with kids, and you
Yeah.
have to advocate and you have to be their champion when they need one.
Yeah.
So
Not easy. It's not an
no,
easy profession,
it's
you
not,
know?
but
It's
I'm
incredibly
so
rewarding.
thankful that God put you in the position to make such an impact on the lives of athlete, and be such an incredible coach and mentor coach to so many younger coaches as well.
Yeah. And
Thank
I
you.
think too, like the point I would add here, just listening to you, David, like, and it goes back to Lindsay, why we started SPAN
Mhm.
is, we started this work, David, and you and I met over coffee when we were just kicking this off to talk about it. And I'm like, our hearts were here because
Mhm.
the youth sports industry right now is a 40 to $50 billion industry. And there
Yeah.
are a lot of people who are in this space not for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And it's really important. I would stress this to our listeners. Like we talk a lot about like, and we're talking to our coaches now, but like my call to action for the coaches that are in this space is like to really have that heart for each and every
Mhm.
athlete on your team. Because whether you realize it or not, David, to your point, you are building the future. These are each and every one of these individuals matters. I think about my work for HEB and we always say each and every person counts. And I believe that in what we do. And it's each and every kiddo on that team is what makes up that team. And your job as a coach is to pour into each and every one of those kiddos.
Yep.
And I would just encourage our parents to make sure you've got that right space and environment for your kiddos as they continue to grow because they got a lot of sports left.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Well, and don't put a halo on me. Uh, I was at Cy Falls one time and had a player that I had enough of, and I kicked him off.
Mhm.
And I had a coach come in and shut the door. He goes, "You got a guy out there that's about to come in here and whip your butt." I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Coach so and so is pissed at you right now
Mhm.
because you're getting rid of his kid, and that kid doesn't have anything but us."
Mhm.
And I called him in the office and said, "All right, you can be as pissed at me as you want." I go, but I'm gonna tell you this: if you care that much, then you invest in him. This
Mhm.
is the expectation. I go, you make him, you get this part of it right. I'll back you, and
Mhm.
we'll see. And it was a growing experience for him
Yep.
and for me.
Yep.
And boy, that kid, believe it or not, a couple of years later, he was the whole reason a kid showed up at our school and was a great player.
But he also
because,
knew that you invested in him and you
yeah,
fought for him when you really didn't have to.
right.
Mhm.
And so, that's when I was saying about having an eclectic staff that can relate to different people, I can't relate to everybody
Yeah.
Yeah.
as I am so driven and obsessed and loving what I do. It can come on too strong to some people.
Mhm.
You know, you have to have some different people that can connect in different ways and can help in a million ways. And so when you're building a staff, go back. That's just a whole nother no whole nother game you have to play.
That's a whole nother podcast. You know,
Which, speaking of that, like,
how to build your coaching teams, how to build that right dynamic that's fit. And something that a lot of people don't think about too is your school, your culture and climate of your school, a lot of it is built around your sports programs because there's so many kids that are involved, whether it's cheering on at the cheerleaders involved in it, the drill team, the band. I mean, the band's all in at football games. And so you can make or break a school culture and climate with that coaching staff because when we have problems in school, our coaches we call, hey, this like right now, football's keeping our kids in line, right? Je-
Yep.
Please, Jesus for football. But when football ends, Lord help us because it's like, well, now we lost football. They don't play basketball. We got to figure, like, how are we keeping? Because they're like, I'm staying in. I'm not getting on academic probation. I can't get in trouble. Coach is going to have me do bear crawls for 200 yards. Okay, hold on. Right. But we reached out to the coaches. They will go in a classroom. Y'all doing your work in here? You better be doing your work. Like it's a
Mhm.
different type of um it's a different type of support when you have coaches that are that invested in their kids. So there should be a whole podcast we do on
Oh
building
yeah.
a program. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I've made coaches go sit in classrooms and with kids. You want to talk about everybody upset. You put a position coach on his one conference period and tell him he's got to go sit in a math class
Ugh.
because one of his players isn't. I'll tell you what, things get fixed in a hurry.
Well, I love it, and I love all of the wisdom you have shared with us, and this concept of the weight room being the place to really kick off that team culture and climate and build that dynamic. I'm so thankful for this podcast with you today.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Thank you for being on and sharing your wisdom with us. And you'll be back. We have more topics for you to cover on a future episode, but we appreciate you kicking us off and just challenging our coaches that are listening to think about the culture that they're building on their teams and to really think about their heart for coaching each and every single athlete that they have ownership of.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay tuned for future podcasts where we will bring on exciting guests in the sports world, highlight spotlight coaches, athletic directors, former and current collegiate and professional sports players, sports dietitians, psychologists, and more.
What you eat and how you think can transform your athletic performance and overall well being. Whether you're an athlete, coach, or fitness enthusiast looking to gain that mental edge and optimize your health, this podcast is for you.
Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media channels to get more exclusive content, including TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X at span_athletics.
Until next time, stay faithful, stay fueled, and remain focused on your goals.